Are you struggling with clean color changes, or are you just looking to up your amigurumi game? So I'm going to show you in this video how to do some clean color changes in rows as well as clean color changes in the rounds. All right, let's get started. First thing we need to do is add our next color. I'm going to go in and do a strategy that replaces the chain. So normally you would get to the end, chain one and turn, but I'm going to replace that. And I have a video about changing colors. So if you want to go check that out, I'll link to that at the end of this video. To go into our straight lines, our rows, we're going to be working into the front loops with slip stitches. So I'm going to put my slip knot on my hook. I'm going to go into this front one. I'm only doing the front loop, grabbing, and I'm doing a slip stitch. Okay. I'm going to do a slip stitch along the front all the way across. So remember, a slip stitch is just grabbing the yarn, pulling through your working loop. You're not yarning over and doing a single crochet. And you might want to do this a little looser if your tension is very tight, because we are going to be working into that slip stitch later on. So don't go in too tight here. Okay. So now I'm going to turn my work, and at this point I'm going to be inserting my hook under the horizontal bar of the previous color and in the front loops of the slip stitch. So if we see our slip stitch, again, we have front loops and we have back loops. So we're going to be going into this blue horizontal bar as well as that front. So I'm going to now go into that blue. It's pretty tricky if your tension is tight. So I'm going into this blue bar. Let's see if I can do this on camera. Here we go. Okay. Go through the horizontal blue line, through the front loop, pull through, and single crochet. Okay. I'm going to do that again. I'm going through the bar, the blue bar there, and through the front loop, pulling through, and single crochet. So front bar and front loop, pull through, single crochet. Okay, I'm going to do that where you can hopefully see the other side. So I'm pushing through that blue bar and I'm pushing through the front loop of that slip stitch. All right, I'm going to speed up a little here and I will meet you at the end. I've come to the end of my row and you can see here now it has a nice clean straight line on the back, a nice clean straight line. Depending on your tension and the type of yarn you have, you might see a little bit of the color on the previous row, but otherwise it is a nice straight and crisp line. All right, now let's talk about working in the round. So when you're working with amigurumi or plushies, you are working in the round. So you want to make sure that you are able to do your color change in a way that keeps your lines nice and crisp. I'm going to show you these again. So this would be a typical regular color change, so you can kind of see it zigzags a little because it's connecting the two pieces. So what we're going for is this look right here. Now before we get to that, I do want to show you an in-between is this one here. So this is working in the back loops only, so it gives a crisper line because you kind of can see where the color changes a little bit crisper versus this one. So you can see there is a difference there. And then we'll take it a step further next and do where there's these super clean lines. So I'm just going to show you real quick the color change into back loops only. So what I did was I snipped off my blue, bring in my new color. I'll go in and I will tie these tails together, but for now I'm just going to go through and I'm going into the back loops. So if you look, there are front loops and back loops. So on the straight, when you're working in a straight line, you're working on the front loops. But when you're working in the rounds, you're going to be working in the back loops. So as you can see, there is that line that's forming, creating that color change in the back loop. Now we're going to finally get to the clean stripes, how to achieve this straight looking line. Now this video is not talking about our jog here, our joining on the end. I'll do that in a separate video, but we are just talking about getting that line as crisp as we can. I'm going to add my blue back in. And I'm going to pull those tails tight and I will tie those together later. So here's how we do it in the round. We are going to start in the back loops and we are going to be doing slip stitches. So into the back loops with a slip stitch. So just like in the straights, you're going to go through, grab your yarn and pull through, and then pull through your working loop. And I'm going to do that all the way around. And once again, if your tension is usually pretty tight, you're going to want to loosen it up just a little bit so that when we go into it later, it won't be so hard. Now, when you're working in the rounds and you're working in the back loop, what it's doing is kind of creating a little bit of a lip. And that lip is what gives it that cleaner look around. Now, just like we did previously, when you do your single crochet instead of this slip stitch, you do still get a little bit of that upwards stitch with the first color. Okay, so as you can see already with the slip stitch, it creates this straight line versus bringing in a little bit of that raised piece. When doing these types of color changes, you need to be aware that it might affect the number of stitches when you're working with a pattern. So make sure that you're paying attention to where things are falling in the pattern that you're working with. Sometimes it really doesn't matter too much, but it could make a difference. Now we're going to go into the back loops again of that slip stitch. So there we have our color change. Seamless, perfect stripes. These are great for when you're doing rainbows and you want it to be really crisp. It is a nice look if that's something you're going for. So there's our color change. Again, these are great for those times that you want the perfect stripe. You don't want those natural waviness that crochet comes with, and you want that crisp straight line. And of course, like I said, I'll do a different video on the finishing it off to avoid the jog here, but that'll be later. And make sure you subscribe so that you can catch that video when I post it. Until next time, happy crocheting.